Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cherries on Top podcast and what has been a quieter week in the life of a Bournemouth fan after a hectic start to the season. It feels like the season is properly underway now, and following a 4-0 defeat to Manchester City, it doesn't get much easier as Bournemouth face Arsenal, the only other side with a 100% record in the league so far. Joining us today is Vavel's Arsenal reporter and BBC Radio Solent's Dan George. Dan, delighted to have you on. Welcome, and thank you very much for joining us today.
No, not at all, mate. Thank you for having me. It's great to be on and looking forward to chatting all things Cherries and Arsenal. Of
course. And before we look at the football, though, the viewers may not know that we actually go to university together and study the same course together. So do you want to tell them a little bit about what you do and how well you've got on in recent months?
No, thank you, man. Yeah, of course. So I'm an Arsenal reporter at Vavel UK. I'm also the South Coast editor there, just kind of keeping the South Coast sites running across all of the South Coast there. And I also work at BBC Radio Solent. That's like my main kind of job, and part of the production team there, and also just part of the team there generally, putting the guys on air and making everything tick. So yeah, man, that's me.
Yeah, honestly, you've been doing brilliantly, mate. It's great to see you doing well as well. So yeah, but looking at the football, obviously, Arsenal start to the season, 2 games, 2 wins. After a disappointing end to last season, missing out on the Champions League spots. With the new signings coming in, are you a bit more optimistic this year? And do you see them finishing in the top 4 this year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I relived it all last night as well because we had the final installment of the Amazon documentary. So seeing the inside of the changing room after that Newcastle defeat was quite something.
Yeah.
But I feel it's weird because I feel confident that Arsenal can get top 4 this season, but then you look at all the teams around them and everyone's got stronger too. So I think it's just going to be a case of who can stay fit, who can keep in form, and it might all come down to the wire again. But I think it will be really close between Tottenham, Chelsea and Arsenal for that kind of those 3rd, 4th and 5th spaces. I think it might be really close, again, depending on injuries. But we'll have to wait and see. It's hard to predict at this stage as well because the transfer window is still open. Like some players could still go, like big moves could still go through. Like Chelsea, I think, looks set to make some solid signings as well in late in the window, and Arsenal look to be bringing in a centre midfielder hopefully at some point too. So who knows, man? That's the beauty of the Premier League.
Yeah, exactly that. And you obviously mentioned the Amazon Prime documentary. It's revealed some of Arteta's brilliant management, and there's been other moments on social media that have been ridiculed by different fans. Are you a fan of the All or Nothing series that has been recorded, or would you rather sagas like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, would you rather that stayed behind closed doors?
Well, I mean, I personally am a big fan. I don't know about yourself, but I just love being able to see behind the scenes,
Gives
inside.
you a real sense of it, doesn't it?
Yeah, you feel like you're part of it. You feel like you get to know these people a bit more down to a level, and I really enjoyed being able to see what happened with the Aubameyang situation, and it's interesting that he might now go to Chelsea and might completely change my opinion on him. But I think it's a really good thing in the sport, and not just Arsenal, but you've seen it with Tottenham, Manchester City. You've seen it with individual players like Paul Pogba's had one. I'm just a really big fan of these kind of behind the scenes, interesting. Get to see that fly on the wall kind of viewpoint from everything. Yeah, I love it.
Of course, and obviously Bournemouth have just come off the back of a 4-0 defeat to Manchester City, managed by Pep Guardiola. Mikel Arteta was under his wing at Man City for a while. Can you see a resemblance in the style of play and their tactics?
I think so, yeah. Definitely, yeah, 100%, because Mikel Arteta, he wants to play that kind of total football kind of style of football. He wants to dominate teams. He wants to impose his style on whoever he's playing. It doesn't matter if he's playing, say, I don't know, a Norwich, or I don't know, no disrespect to Bournemouth, or if he's playing Manchester City, or if he's playing a Chelsea or Tottenham. He wants to play a similar kind of style, and I'm a big fan of that. And I think it's destined for greatness. I think, in my opinion, Mikel Arteta is the right person for Arsenal, and I'm just hoping this season we'll see that steady progression. And I think with some of the additions that have come in, it's a really positive start.
Of course, yeah. On to Bournemouth now, then. Through your work with BBC Radio Solent, obviously you'll have covered Cherries or helped to cover the Cherries. What have you made
Absolutely.
their start of the campaign? What have you made of it? And has anything surprised you in that sense?
I think the win against Villa somewhat surprised me. I think in a good way, of course. I think
Mm,
it's brilliant to see them do so well against Villa. I think it's been a slow encouragement with Bournemouth because at the start of the window, well, when we got to the start of the season, we were saying Bournemouth haven't really done much business. There's not really
mm.
anyone come in, like maybe a little bit concerned about what was going to happen, but they brought in a few decent players. I think there's still business to do as well.
Yeah, they've
And
looking at a striker potentially
yeah,
now. Yeah,
yeah, definitely. And I think it's interesting to see what's going to happen. And I'm encouraged to see. I mean, I think you just got to throw away that Man City result because it's going to not it? You're going to
of
go to
course,
Anfield.
yeah.
You're going to go to the Etihad.
There's
You're going
going
to
to
get.
be many other teams
Oh
that
yeah,
get
100%.
the
And it's
same treatment, of course.
not just Bournemouth. I mean, Arsenal went there last season and lost. What was it, 4-5-0, something like that. So it happens to anyone.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
I think it's encouraging that win against Villa, and I think they've got to build upon that. And it'll be interesting to see how they go about it. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they get on this season.
Obviously, it doesn't get much easier. Arsenal and then Liverpool. Yeah, it's going to be a tough run for Bournemouth, but
Mm.
the last few games against Arsenal have been, there's been some crackers when they were last in the Premier League. The 3-3 at Dean Court
What a
springs to
game!
mind.
What
Yeah,
a game!
the little quick turnaround for Bournemouth to win their only ever game against Arsenal. So it's been a fixture dominated by Arsenal largely, only losing once in 12 matches against the Cherries. What memories do you have of Arsenal playing against Bournemouth, and what sort of springs to mind when you think we're going to Dean Court, the small stadium?
Just straight away, that 3-3 game was mental. I remember that.
Mm.
Just I couldn't believe it. I'd given up after. I can't remember. Did they go? Was it 3 goals down or 2 goals
Yeah,
down? Yeah,
3-0, 3-0
yeah,
up. Yeah, and
yeah.
then
And I just couldn't believe it when Lucas Perez. I don't know if you remember that name.
yeah,
Scored a brilliant volley. One of the most, I think, disrespected players in Arsenal's dressing room
mm.
over a generation. He just never. He scored a hat trick in the Champions League and then got benched against Stoke the next game for Olivier Giroud. And I think, and then obviously Giroud scoring the equaliser, and then doing the scorpion kick thingy as
Celebration,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think even more recently as well, Mikel Arteta's first Arsenal game he managed was Bournemouth away.
Yeah,
Um,
FA Cup
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
2-1.
And
Yeah, I think.
just
Yeah,
looking at the progression of the team and who's in there and who's gone on to where they are. I think Saka started at left back in that game in his
yeah.
first ever
He
game.
had an absolute storm of that game. I
Yeah,
remember that very. Yeah,
yeah. And I remember it was the game was, I think it was Lacazette, Aubameyang, Reece Nelson up front, and then Mesut Ozil was playing, Saka at left back. I mean, you look at the progression and just the way Arsenal have evolved, and Mikel Arteta's put his kind of stamp of authority on the team. It's just, I think you can really see the journey and the progress and how do you say it? The process that it's gone through as well.
of course. And speaking of progression, Aaron Ramsdale was previously at Bournemouth, went to Sheffield, and then now on to Arsenal. He still regards Dean Court very highly and
Mm.
calls Bournemouth his home still.
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously, he went for a large sum of money, £30 million, I think it was, from Sheffield United.
yeah, about that.
Were,
Yeah.
were you surprised of how quickly he replaced Leno, or were you expecting it? And he's been an absolute revelation for Arsenal in goal. So what are your opinions on him?
Well, I mean, when we first heard of the links with Aaron Ramsdale, it's on tape. You can go back and clip it. I said this would be the biggest mistake Arsenal could ever make. And what I was wrong. I was here to be proved wrong, and he's made me eat my words. And I'm a big Aaron Ramsdale fan. I think what he offers is incredible, especially with his feet. But he loves Bournemouth. You don't need to. It's not difficult to see he loves Bournemouth because you've seen on his Instagram stories come back
Always back
multiple
down here.
times
Yeah.
to come watch the games, even whilst he's been an Arsenal player.
Mm.
He came back to the Bournemouth International Centre the other week to watch Chris Billam-Smith's fight.
Right, yeah.
And he was with the Bournemouth squad, and he loves Bournemouth. He's a big fan of the South Coast. I think a lot of people are, but Yeah, I think it'll get a good reception, I'm sure.
Sure of it. He recently got engaged as well, so congratulations to him as well. So
100%.
Brilliant guy. On to the new signings then. Jesus made his mark, scoring 2 brilliant goals against Leicester. Got a further 2 assists. Obviously, Arsenal have recruited well this summer. They've got Zinchenko, and although he's not a new signing, the returning Saliba has looked impressive as well. Who do you think Bournemouth should be most fearful in this Arsenal squad?
I mean, you can't look any further than Gabriel Jesus. Is just he's lethal, isn't he? I think you saw it straight away from an Arsenal perspective as soon as he came in when the pre-season started, and I think he scored like a couple of goals and was involved in about 4 of them or something like that in the first pre-season game, and you saw it in the Emirates Cup. And the way he literally, I think if there was a striker that's tailor-made for Arsenal, is Gabriel Jesus. I think he's perfect for what Arteta wants, and as a striker what he wants, because Alex Lacazette scored 2 non-penalty goals all of last season. So you just got to think that you need someone to come in and hit the ground running, and he's 100% that player. I think if you're looking at someone who's not necessarily as obvious, I don't know. I feel like any of Arsenal's front line, Gabriel Martinelli's looked really good so far.
He's been brilliant, electric.
Yeah, definitely. I think Granit Xhaka's had a really good start to the season as well, and he was again really played really well last season. I think he's hated on so much, but he is actually a really solid player.
Yeah,
and he never gets his flowers. He never gets the kudos for his performances, and I think outside of Arsenal that is. So I think he's really someone that likes to set the tone and someone that will play a big role on the game on Saturday.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned Gabriel Jesus. But Bournemouth played his replacement last week in Erling Haaland.
Yeah,
reduced him down to 8 touches. I'm pretty sure Gabriel Jesus won't get as little as that, but he's also shown he's a world-class striker. And he was scoring goals for fun when he joined City initially, playing as a striker. And then he actually broke his metatarsal against Bournemouth. So Pep Guardiola never looked to trust him fully in that number 9 position. Do you think that's where he will excel now in the Arsenal team?
I do. I think now he's got the opportunity to be the main man. I think Eddie Nketiah is a really solid backup as well. And I think he's been crying out for it. I think he's said it ever since he came. Said it in his post-match interview the other day. He said, "I love my time at City, but now I can come here. I can play pretty much every game. I can be the main man." That's what he wants to do, and he's playing football happier again. He said, "I think it's just a great opportunity for him to really showcase what he's about and develop his game by playing regular minutes in the Premier League." And that's what you need. And you could argue with City that a lot of their positions, they don't get played regularly. They like to rotate that front 3. Guardiola's an FPL nightmare, isn't he? You put someone in there and they're not playing every week. So I think it's a great opportunity for him, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And he's only 25 years old as well. So the future he's got ahead of him is
seen really early, didn't he? And now
he's
starting to hit his prime, I'd say. Ironic because KSI sponsored Prime now, Arsenal. He's going into his prime, but obviously other people are seeing that 75% plus owned on FPL. And there's been some other players in the Arsenal squad that have caught the eye of FPL managers. You mentioned another Gabriel Martinelli, and obviously Bukayo Saka as well. Personally, I think you have in the future 2 of the very best in the world there in them 2. And then with Gabriel Jesus as well, that's another one. How high do you think the ceiling is for the other 2? So Martinelli and Saka, how high do you think the ceiling is for them?
I think the sky's the limit. I think the only concern with Bukayo Saka is he plays a lot of games. I think he played like pretty much all the games last season. I know they didn't have Europe, but he just plays so many minutes. And I think they need someone to come in and supplement his hours to the point of not just take games off him, but to push him, provide competition, keep him going. But I think Saka was amazing last season. And Gabriel Martinelli, honestly, is, I think, any manager's dream. He trains incredibly. He works incredibly hard. And he's got that raw kind of pace and just
he's
ability.
Frightening.
Yeah, and he's only I think 21 years old. So just again, Saka's 20, Gabriel Martinelli's 21. I think Emil Smith Rowe is another player who can have a big future at Arsenal. Again, only in that 2021 kind of age bracket. And honestly, I think the sky's the limit. And I think for me, Gabby Martinelli especially is just, I can see him, if Arsenal don't continue this progression, I can see him going to like I don't know, Real Madrid and being the main guy in like so many years' time. I think he's that good. Like
I don't disagree with that, just because he's got that, he can sense out a goal, can't he? He sniffs that goal out and he gets in there. He plays out wide for Arsenal at the moment, but he can easily play striker. He's that good of a player, and he's just frightening for any defense. And I think Jurgen Klopp actually said
Klopp loves him, man.
Yeah,
Klopp loves him. Klopp, I think, he's Klopp just sings his praises like every time he plays him, by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
I think it's just that the way he's constantly running, he's constantly pressing. It's like the man's cardio is incredible. I don't know how he does it. Like, just I think a manager's dream and any supporter's dream to have someone like Martinelli on the side. And the only hope is that none of these players get bad injuries, like has happened with so many of Arsenal's talents over the years. So. Yeah, just ones to watch, and so much of their career to still go. So, yeah, exciting times.
Yeah, of course. And now, as much as we can praise Arsenal and say they may have turned a corner in their development with Mikel Arteta, obviously there's still questions about their backbone, and they're somewhat susceptible to not being able to grit it out with the more tougher teams and tougher situations. Do you think that that's changed now? Do you think they still have a lot more to prove, or do you think that they're getting there?
I think they're slowly getting there. Last season was it was interesting to see, because they won a lot of games against teams outside the top six. And that's ultimately what put them in that top four race, but really struggled, especially away from home at any of the top six sides, apart from Chelsea, obviously that 4-2 win. But really struggled to get anything away from home at top six sides, at home as well against a lot of them. But we did see them go toe to toe with the likes of Manchester City at the Emirates. If it wasn't for a Rodri like last minute equaliser, winner. I think Arsenal really deserve something from that game.
I think they came away with that game with a lot of hope and praise, didn't they? After
I think that was the best performance of the season. Somewhat.
Yeah.
That was honestly
I remember watching that game.
Yeah.
And they were unbelievable. City didn't have a sniff.
No, and they just got lucky. And ultimately, that's what great teams do. They win when they're not playing well. And
when the chips are down.
Yeah, I think you just look at Manchester City and you look at Arsenal, and City are what Arsenal want to be in, however, I don't know, like 2-3 years' time somewhat. But yeah, it's I think they're slowly getting there. I think this season, the main targets need to be winning away at some of the big six sides.
Yeah.
And again, doing it at home as well. And I think just more consistency, and having someone like Saliba back in the back four is just going to be huge. Excuse me, and Zinchenko as well.
Yeah, of course. And that being said, then, if you were to put Scott Parker's immaculate cardigan on and figure out a way to find a chink in this Arsenal side, what would you say Bournemouth would need to do to get at this Arsenal team?
How was he wearing that?
Honestly,
that cardigan last week.
35-degree heat plus. The man's a soldier. Best dressed manager in the Premier League, isn't he?
Oh no, 100%. There's an argument for that. But how do you beat this Arsenal side? I think you've got to frustrate them somehow. I mean, it's a tough task, and I mean no disrespect to Bournemouth here, but I think you've just got to frustrate the Arsenal side. Sometimes Arsenal have struggled against like a low block. Sometimes if you put pretty much all the men behind the ball, they've struggled to break teams down in past years. Yeah. We look at Southampton away last season; they struggled to really to break them down the whole game. Southampton scored that one goal and then put all the men behind the ball. You look at some of the other teams that have blown Arsenal away in certain games as well, like Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park last season. But they seem to have learnt a lot from previous mistakes.
Yeah,
I think if Bournemouth want to try and get some joy, then they could really try and utilize obviously Kiefer Moore up front and the physicality that he brings.
Of course.
Although I think Saliba and Gabriel are big guys as well. So
They like a little scrap as well, don't they, them two? They're really
yeah,
tough
yeah,
defenders.
really in for that. And I think physically Arsenal are no pushover like they used to be in previous years. Like, what is it? Troy Deeney and his no cojones comment that everyone loved. And
Yeah.
I think obviously times have moved on from Mustafi and Socrates, but I think Bournemouth have just got to. I think they've just got to be patient and really just not concede early is the biggest thing I can say for Bournemouth's point of view. But we don't know what Arsenal's going to turn up.
Yeah. That's
Have to
always a
wait
question
and
with them,
see.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
At this moment
It's a
in time still.
it's a tough one. It's a tough one to call, if I'm being honest. I'm not too sure. Hence why I guess I'm not a coach and I'm not Scott Parker, but
Yeah.
I think potentially they could get some joy through Kiefer Moore up front. Although Solanke didn't start against Man City, didn't he? So
Ankle injury, yeah. So
yes.
it's
Do
not
you think he'll be
sure.
back for this one?
They're not sure about whether he's going to be back yet. Nothing's been said externally, but Bournemouth are in for another striker potentially. They've looked at Semenyo of Bristol City and potentially Brereton Diaz from Blackburn. So that could suggest that it could be a longer term injury, longer than they feared anyways.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully not. But I think if the biggest thing I can say to Bournemouth is, in my opinion, if they can stop Arsenal scoring and just really frustrate them and not concede early goals, then I think they could really get some joy potentially later on if it's still level with like a counter attack or something like that. But we'll wait and see. It's going to be a good game, and it's always great to. I enjoy watching football at Dean Court and the Vitality Stadium as it's now called, and I'm looking forward to it, and I think it'll be good.
Yeah, of course. And I'll have to ask you about Ben White playing a right back. Are you an advocate for that, or do you think that's potentially an area of weakness for Arsenal?
I don't have any issues with it whatsoever. I think he's mobile enough to play in a right back, left back position. He's an incredibly mobile centre back in the first place. I think it'll be good when Tomiyasu comes back. I don't know if he'll be back in time for this one. I think he's been training, but I think Ben White does just as good a job. And despite some of Gary Neville's criticism, I thought he did a good job against Wilfred Zaha. Against Crystal Palace. And although it's not his natural position, by the sounds of it, he's happy to play there. So we'll wait and see. And I think it's better to, now we've got Gabriel and Saliba as the kind of first choice centre-back pairing. I think it's good to have Ben White as an option at right back, and he's played there for England before as well. So I don't have an issue with it personally.
Yeah, of course. He actually went to school down here about 10 minutes away from where I am.
He's in Poole. He's in Poole. He's from Poole, isn't he?
Yeah, so he's come in somewhat home as well. So that'll be brilliant to see as well. But now, previously mentioned slightly the Gunners' impressive record over Bournemouth. And on the Cherries on Top podcast, I'd like to throw in a hypothetical question or a game. Today is a game.
Okay.
And Dan, the challenge for you is, in the previous 10 Premier League matches between the two sides, how many of the different goal scorers can you name from Arsenal and Bournemouth?
Are we saying FA Cup and Premier League? Or like
just Premier League.
Oh god.
Just for Premier League. But I'll give you, there's 20 goal scorers. Potentially 21. There's a bit of a curveball in there. So if you get that curveball, it's a bonus point.
Okay, how long do I have?
I will give you a timer of 2 minutes to name as many as you can.
Okay.
Ready?
Okay, yeah, go on.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so Aubameyang.
Yep.
Olivier Giroud.
Yep.
Alexis Sanchez.
Yep.
Lucas Perez.
Yep.
You're already testing me now. I'm thinking.
There's one player in Arsenal squad that always seems to have a blinder against Bournemouth.
Well, I know. David Luiz.
Yep, that's another one. Yep.
I'm trying to think. Lacazette.
Yep, Lacazette scored against.
Lacazette. Okay.
Yeah.
Did I say Danny Welbeck?
No, you haven't. That's another one. Yeah. That's
another one. Yeah.
Hidden one. Fairly obscure one.
Mesut Ozil.
Yeah, he's the one that always seems to have a
Okay.
blinder against Bournemouth.
Okay, yeah.
Scored 4 against them in 10
Phew,
matches in the Premier League. Yeah.
I'm trying to think now. This is a tough one. I'm going to say Lauren Koscielny. Lauren
He
Koscielny?
has scored, yeah.
Okay.
Another
Per
obscure one.
Mertesacker?
He's not down there, no.
No, okay.
No.
Oh, you're really testing me now. I can't think of masses of Bournemouth games. I'm trying to think now to specific games.
Can you get any AFC Bournemouth ones out of the way? There's
Oh
obviously a
yeah,
lot
of course.
fewer. Yeah.
Oh my word. Has Solanke scored?
No.
No.
That
Oh,
was before his scoring days.
oh my word, this is really embarrassing. I'm really sorry to any Bournemouth fans watching.
Think of the big names. Big Bournemouth names.
Adam Smith?
No, he hasn't scored.
Oh my word.
English international striker.
Um,
No longer at Bournemouth as well.
Danny Ings?
No. He hasn't been at Bournemouth for.
No, oh my word.
Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna kick yourself when I.
Oh my word. This is really embarrassing.
You've got 42 seconds.
Phil Billen?
No. Think prime Bournemouth times. Who was their main scorer?
Oh my god.
The front two that were lethal in the Premier League.
It's Ryan Fraser.
Ryan Fraser has scored. Yes, he's one of them.
Callum Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking.
Okay.
12 seconds.
Lewis Cook?
No. Can you think of a curveball? There's a bit of a curveball in there, yeah.
Oh man, no. This is embarrassing.
That is time. I was going to say the curveball would be Jefferson Lerma own goal, that worldy of an own goal.
Oh yes, I remember that.
On the edge of a box.
I remember that one. That one.
That was one of the best own goals I've ever seen in my life, to be honest.
I can only apologise to the Bournemouth fans. Why did I say Danny Ings?
The other names are for Arsenal. I'll go. Gabriel has scored. Oxlade-Chamberlain has scored.
Was that Gabriel Paulista?
Defender, yeah. Centre back, yeah. The Ox has scored.
Yeah.
Who else did you not say? Did you say Bellerin? I think you did say Bellerin.
Oh, I don't think I did. No.
Oh, okay. Mkhitaryan.
Oh, Mkhitaryan, yeah.
They're the only ones of Arsenal that you didn't get. For Bournemouth, Charlie Daniels, you got Ryan Fraser and Callum Wilson. Jordan Ibe in the 2-1 victory.
Okay.
Josh King and did you say Dan Gosling?
No, I didn't.
No, I don't think you said yeah. So they were the goal scorers. But you did fairly well, mate. I think you got about 12 or 13.
I'm not giving myself credit for that. I should have done better with the Bournemouth one. Josh King. How did I not get Josh King?
Yeah, the lethal 2 back in the golden days of Bournemouth in the Premier League. But onto the quick fire questions to round off, Ben. What are your predictions for Saturday's late kickoff?
If I'm being honest, I don't think Bournemouth can beat Arsenal, in my opinion. I think Arsenal will get the business done. I'm gonna say 3-1. I think. You still look to that game against Leicester, and Leicester had some moments like the own goal, the William Saliba own goal, and Maddison getting some joy in that goal he scored as well. I think there's still areas that can be got at this Arsenal side. So I think if Bournemouth probe in the right areas and they're patient, then they can get some joy. So I'll say 3-1, I think. And
that being said, who will the goal scorers be?
I think Gabriel Jesus.
Just the one?
I'm gonna say, I'll say Gabriel Jesus will score 1. Yeah. I think Saka will score, and I'm gonna say Zinchenko for his first Arsenal goal.
Oh, Zinchenko! Wow.
And for Bournemouth, I'll say Lerma will get us on the score sheet again.
Okay. 3-3. Well, one of them was an own goal, but
Yeah.
but yeah, Zinchenko. I might have to throw him into my starting lineup then for
Yeah.
this week in FPL. But where are Arsenal going to finish in the Premier League this season? And will they win silverware this year?
I'm going to say fourth just because I think they've got a really good squad. There's still a lot of time to go in the Champions League, in the transfer window, and in January as well, potentially. I think they're in a much better place than last season. And I think Jesus will give them much more going forward. So yeah, I'll say fourth.
And silverware this year?
It's a tough one.
It's tough, isn't it? Europa League, potentially.
I think they should be aiming to win the Europa League, and obviously Manchester United in there as well. So it would be especially sweet if they can beat Manchester United there. But I think having European football back is going to be brilliant for the club anyway. And yeah, why not? I'll say Arsenal can win the Europa League.
Lovely stuff. And obviously, more importantly, where do you think Bournemouth are going to finish, and will they stay up this season?
I think a lot of it depends on the final business they get done in the next few days. And like you said, that Solanke potential injury. So we'll wait and see with that one what happens and when the business is done. But I'll say I think they can stay up. I think there's worse teams than them at the moment placed in the Premier League, and everyone seems to be writing Bournemouth off. And I think a lot of podcasts and people have been coming on and saying, "Oh, Bournemouth are going straight down," and just mugging the club off.
Bournemouth fans themselves weren't too optimistic going into the season.
Yeah, I think now that you've seen a few signings in come in the door, I think it's encouraging to see, and I think they can still do some more business as well. So we'll wait and see, but I think they'll stay up.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much, Dan, for your insight into Arsenal and Bournemouth being the BBC Radio Solent team, part of the team, I guess.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Yeah, you can find all of Dan's links in the description below, and they'll be at the end of this podcast as well. So make sure to give them a follow. And make sure to subscribe, like and comment on this video for more AFC Bournemouth content. And until next time, it's a goodbye from me. And Dan, do you want to say the final words?
Nah, thank you for watching, guys. I apologize for my poor form in the quiz. And yeah, make sure to subscribe to Saj's channel. So yeah, nice one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Goodbye.